Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight, we're going to talk about something. Not sure what yet, but we'll come up with something for you. No, I'm just kidding. On a serious note, got a couple questions about, we've got a question about subsonic 9s and decapping pins. So we'll see what happens.
I'm excited to hear about the decapping pins.
I bet you are. Damn it, echoes back. We've got an intermittent echo, gang, so if you hear it, just ignore it. Hopefully it'll come out in production. Stupid ass. Anyway. So, I didn't do jack squat. How about everybody else? Travis?
Yeah, let's see. I forget half of what I did, but what I do remember, I finished processing my 5-gallon bucket of 223 brass.
That was just brass prep, right, Travis?
Brass prep. Yep, on the 1050.
5 gallon.
So,
oh my God.
That's the second 5-gallon I've done in however long. And then I went ahead and started sizing some 9mm projectiles that I had powder coated. The fun thing that I did is I took my son to the gun range. Not this guy.
That one?
Not this one. I took my 17-year-old. Him and I went and shot pistols and shotgun and rifle, getting him kind of back into figuring out his 3-gun stuff. So what did you do, Jim?
Well, on Sunday, I took a friend shooting, shot an AR-10 for the first time. First time for the rifle, first time for me, first time for him. And we burned up about 120 rounds of factory ammunition, about $150 worth of his ammo. And, well, to be honest with you, we had a good time. He's got a Vortex PS2. You guys correct me if I got it wrong, but it's a 5x25 scope, front focal plane, and it's just, I can't get over how nice it is. My Citron is great, but you know what? This Vortex, they got it going. They got it right too. They really do.
Vortex makes some good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. PST, by the way. PST.
PST, Papa Sierra Tango. That's the model name. Thank you. Anyway, so he gave me all that brass. I don't know what he's going to do for ammo, but I keep after him, trying to get him to start reloading. I told him, I even accused him. I said, "You told me you'd never put reload through that rifle." He says, "Jim, at $26 a box, I got to." And he was using a mighty fine Federal premium gold ammunition with 168 grain Sierra Match King bullets in it. The rifle was 308, not 6.5. And go ahead, Phil.
Federal gold medal match.
Yep.
Yeah, about $1 around on sale.
Yeah, on sale, but he paid regular full price, $26, $25.95. Perry's Gun Shop. Yeah. And we burned, well, I'll be honest, he did have some 149 grain FMJ, some GI ammo, and all that. And we burned it up too. We used it for zero and at least getting on paper and all that mess. But the Federal stuff, he saved it for last. He liked to cry when he saw the pile of brass he gave me. It's like, I even told him, I says, I know where there's a reloading press, a Forster reloading press for sale for $100. And all that. I says, he says, I know what they're worth. I told him, that's right, $300. New. Anyway, so we'll see. And then Monday, that was yesterday, of course, I resized all the brass I had, the machine gun brass, machine gun fired brass, I should say. That's all Lake City ball ammo. And I fired that. I fired all the stuff we burned up on Sunday. I said fired. I resized all that. Resized some LCLR 71 sniper ammo brass, shall we say? No, I didn't shoot it. It's what I had on hand. It came through me through an unknown source. Anyway, so I also had some virgin brass too. I resized it just to be sure. And now I've got all that brass we fired up yesterday, all the GI brass is all in the tumbler. It tumbled for like 12, 14 hours. I just turned it off. Didn't have time to sort it out. And then I turned around and I also started resizing 40 brass. But remember, you guys might remember that I put a nice long handle, about that long, on my Forster press. That made that resizing of that GI brass so easy it wasn't funny. That and the pure lanolin. But anyway, when I used the carbide sizer die on the 40 brass, I just took the long handle off, and I'm only using a handle about 6 inches long. It just that fast. It just down and up, down and up, down and up. It's just as fast as I can strip them out, fast as I can put them in, cycle them in and out, in and out. So anyway, I'm back to reloading, guys, after two-year plus hiatus. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Yeah, it is a bit disgusting and discouraging. Trust me, I'm the one that was on the backside of that.
It's a miracle.
Plus all that abuse that Hookham put out there, Stephen Pope put out there. Oh my God, all the abuse and crap and baloney that I took from you guys. Just shows what a nice guy I am.
Hey, Jim, I got to correct myself. That scope, if it was the 5 by whatever, it was the HST, not PST.
And the PST is what, 6 by 26?
Sorry, it's a different line, but the HST is hunting, shooting, tactical, and that's probably what he had.
Well, then, Travis, I'm probably wrong on the magnification. Because it is a PST.
4 to 16, maybe?
No, it's more magnification than that.
Do they make a 6 to 20 in the PST line?
I'm looking right now.
I mean, I'm a Vortex fanboy, but I'm not as well versed in them as you are.
So what you're saying, Phil, is June 22nd, when I'm out there partying with all the Vortex guys for their black party, you're going to be effing jealous?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'll hate you, but it won't be.
Okay. Jim, I gotta correct myself again. They do have it in the PST in a 5 by 25.
That sounds right.
Oh my goodness. We've got all sorts of stuff going on around here today. Just all sorts of wrong stuff going on.
What are you, a Baptist preacher?
We needs to get it together. No.
By the way, Kel, I don't know exactly what the length of the barrel is. It's probably 18. And yeah, Kel, I'll be if I need any help, I'll ask you. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I did Precious Little and Guns and Reloading this past week. I've been still dealing with family things, and about the best I did was I managed to get out to the garage for a little bit yesterday and inventory all my ammo stockpiles and figure out what I need to be doing. Which at this point, it's replenish all the ammo I shot at that Appleseed event, because I did not realize how much I shot at that freaking event. I mean, I went out there with 30 stripper clips full and, I don't know, 16 loaded magazines maybe.
What's the course of fire?
Hard to explain.
90 rounds?
No, each is
Each AQT, I mean, you got
50 rounds.
Yeah, but
If you do fighting.
Yeah. Suffice to say, Jim, we were out there from 8 o'clock in the morning until about 5 o'clock in the evening. I would say conservatively, I spent 1/3 of that time on the range shooting.
Yeah. So,
So, I
you
mean-
probably burned in excess of 500 to 700 rounds.
Just eyeballing it, I burned through a little less than half of a 50 cal can.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
burn up a lot of ammo.
I don't doubt it.
And I wasn't out there shooting the whole second day because I had to get on the road early coming home around lunchtime. So the people that stayed shot for another 4 hours longer than I did.
I'll
That would-
usually go through about 1,000 rounds of 22 in a Appleseed weekend.
Wow.
Although it is kind of my own neuroses because like only when you're a prepper could you consider having like a 30 cal can and 7 bandolers full of ammo and 20 loaded magazines. Only then could you consider that to be running low.
Well, at the same time,
Yeah,
you
not
got to
necessarily.
consider what you got to work with what you can carry.
Yeah, that's why I bought the Toyota because now I have a bug out vehicle. I can carry all sorts of stuff now.
Yep. Anyway,
Moving right along. I'm just looking at the comments quick.
yeah.
There's some pretty good ones in there. People need to watch and check it out. So, all right. So, I did do a little shot shell reloading. So, that is still behind me, and the hat's still on there. So, but I did load up a box of 25. Then my wife hollered at me and said, "I asked you to do this." So that ended the reloading session. One of my favorite features of that 366 is it has shutoffs for both the powder and the shot. And they're independent. So that is probably one of my favorite features.
That is a big deal.
One of the things that's annoying me, though, is on the fancy primer loader that you have to unscrew the screws to put more primers in. So I'm going to figure out some sort of quick connect for that thing. But
Good thing you know a machinist.
I've been after that boy for a year and a half to send me that damn plate that's too hard to drill by hand. I've been after him for a year and a half to send me that damn plate. He won't do it yet. He's too cheap to spend the postage.
No, I just forget. So I'll get that out sometime this week.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to hold my breath.
Create a reminder. So, well, we don't want you to hold your breath, Jim. You're finally reloading again.
We have a Trumbo.
Hello, Trumbo.
That sounds like an infection.
Could be.
I mean,
Got your infection.
it's not exactly a rash, but it is irritating. It does grow on you.
Are you looking in the mirror, Phil?
Incidentally, Jason, we're on the air.
You know.
That's always fun when I can really set Jim off.
Oh,
Oops.
How you doing, Jason?
good.
Glad to hear it, bud.
I think Phil's got one of our listeners picking on me in the chat here.
Oh no, there's 3 of them picking on you now.
Well, if there's only one, Phil needs to step up his game because that's a little low. And by the way, I did do one thing kind of reloading related. I got rid of some old mixed powder.
By shooting it, right?
No, campfire.
You can burn it.
Yeah, worked great for helping dry out the wood that was wet.
It does work well
Did you
for
pick-
fire starting.
Mhm.
Did you take some video?
No, I didn't. I've got like 3 more pounds to do. Somebody that used to be in reloading gave me some powder. I've got some black powder too, but I don't know.
Make for a bunch of pipe bombs.
No,
Or one big one.
no pipe bombs, no explosives. Bad Jim.
Darn it, Jim.
Look at Travis. He's grinning from ear to ear.
Bad Jim.
Not me. I have no idea what a pipe bomb is.
Jim, we're supposed to talk about that kind of stuff offline. Over secured comms.
I guess, Hookem, you're supposed to take that out, is what they're trying to say.
Oh yeah, definitely that needs to get taken out.
Oh, you mean even though it just broadcasts straight to YouTube?
Right,
Live forever.
Hi, ATF.
right. Jim's address is.
I'm sure they already know.
Oh yeah.
Port
they
Allegheny,
definitely know.
Pennsylvania. Port Allegheny, Pennsylvania.
No, they definitely know where he lives. Remember, he's got class 3 stuff.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. But that's Travis. You'll like this one. I actually did thread the 30 caliber suppressor onto the 280 AI. I haven't fired it yet, but when I take the 280 AI out, I'm going to fire it. And it looks like to me I'm going to be taking that rifle out next. But it actually threads right on, fits extremely well. And that's something that I guess I need to learn a little bit about. And that's what's called timing the muzzle brake that goes inside the suppressor. By that, I guess the shims that they gave me for that, they gave me a set of 3 shims. They look like they're about 5/1000ths of an inch each. And I guess they adjust how level the muzzle brake winds up when you snug it down and tighten up the threads, where it bottoms out, shall we say. So I got to doing some studying on that, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, don't put anti-seize.
Gasoline.
Too, but yeah, don't put anti-seize on those threads, Jim.
Why not?
Because it won't turn out well for you.
Why? What's it going to do? Blow never sees right back at me?
No, you won't be able to get it off.
Anti-seize?
Yep, it turns to glue at that temperature.
Oh.
Yeah.
No. They did say in the directions for the from Silence & Co., they do strongly recommend putting a little oil on the threads of the suppressor when you assemble it.
Yeah, put some 30 weight on there.
Yeah, okay.
Some actual motor oil.
I understand.
Yeah, no, don't put anti-seize on there.
Turns to glue, huh?
Yeah, there's quite a few horror stories I've seen on people who put anti-seize on there.
Yes.
So,
I mean, well, I would have been very generous with the darn stuff inside the suppressor and the threads and such. Not now.
No. So,
anyway, Travis, I know you can hear me now. We were talking about. I did actually attach the 30 caliber suppressor on the 280 AI. Fits extremely well.
You attached it, you just haven't used it yet.
That's next.
Well, if you've got a compressor on it, step outside your door.
Yeah. I got neighbors on 270 degrees of me.
Well, it still leaves you a little narrow band.
Yeah.
It's 90 degrees. You can still shoot. Come on.
Yeah, right. In a farmer's field. Anyway. Yeah, I was kind of worried. I was really, to tell you the truth, what was taking me so long with the suppressor is the fact that I was kind of half chicken that it wouldn't fit. But it does.
What do you mean?
It fits like the threads. Threads wouldn't be compatible. I was worried I had half inch 20/28 on the rifle and 5/8 24 on the suppressor, or vice versa.
Aren't you a machinist?
Yes.
Don't you have all thread pitches and patterns memorized? and you
No.
look at it and automatically know?
No, and I don't own the machine that would do that either.
Disappointed.
Yeah, right. Me too. Anyhow, yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier. I just meant to, matter of fact, I meant to put that in the show notes.
So, back to the anti-seize. The one thing I didn't want to tell is because there are a couple out there that you can get anti-seize that actually does handle that temperature, but you're not going to find it at your local parts store or hardware store. So,
Is that the copper-based stuff?
yes and no. There's 4 different temperatures of copper-based anti-seize.
Ah,
So you have to find the stuff. Cal will put in the chat 2000 degree. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up. But used to have a guy that had a dragster, and we had to get it for his header bolts. Because
that makes sense.
he was running alcohol.
Yep, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, his exhaust temperature was 1500 degrees
I believe it.
at the end of the pipe. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the temperature was at the headers at the block. So
what temperature range a suppressor reaches up to?
I don't know if there's actually any hard data on that, because I don't think anybody's ever bothered to check.
I mean, I've seen a YouTube video where somebody stuck one on the end of an M249 and ran a belt through it until it just disintegrated, but I don't think they were really measuring temperature.
Yeah, well, that would be red hot, beyond red hot into white hot.
I
Yeah.
have some Loctite C5-A that's good to up to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit.
Why
Well-
not just MIG weld it at that point? I mean, being serious, why not just get a TIG welder and tack it in 2 spots?
Well, with Loctite, you might as well.
What is it?
No, it says that this is Loctite brand.
Yeah.
It's copper-based anti-seize. It's
Oh,
not
sorry.
it's copper-based sorry, I didn't even say that. C5-A, good for up to 1800 degrees.
Yeah.
I would have thought just like you though, Jim. I would have put this all over and not even thought about what Mike said.
No.
That's good to know.
So, yeah, I want to say that, Travis, I want to say that you should be okay with that, but I'm not positive. So, but all you got to do is Google that, and you'll find lots of people that are crying because they couldn't get that. So,
I like to put anti-seize on things that whenever I can, because
Yep.
I hate,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So.
Bearings and shafts, anyway.
Yep.
mhm.
Well, I would imagine that, like Mike was saying about the headers, 1500 degrees. I can't imagine a suppressor getting that hot unless you're an idiot and put it on the end of a M249. You know, where you're deliberately trying to destroy this suppressor. But even so, the steel temp like that, that's at 2800 degrees. But you're not interested in preserving the suppressor. You're interested in destroying it. So that's a kind of a moot point. But I
Yeah.
can't imagine the suppressor. I intend to use it like a normal, sensible human being. I don't imagine my temps are going to be even come close to 1800.
So how
Yeah,
long? Let's take bets and see how long until Jim burns his fingertips when he forgets that thing's hot. Tries to take it off.
That's a good point. I already thought of that. In other words, you don't remove it without a glove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you thought it took a while for your barrel to cool before you could put it away.
Ooh. Yes. Yeah. You guys are giving me some food for thought.
Get yourself you could get yourself a welding glove and just wrap it up in that, or some of the smaller welding cloths that are designed for higher heat.
Well, Mike, what are those really nice? They're kind of like that silicone type sleeve that they go over, and it's got like a Cordura outer sleeve to it.
Yeah, like so it's like a
somebody
silicone.
makes. Yeah, I think that's something that somebody actually makes.
There's a bunch of different. Yeah, there's a bunch of different companies that make it. I'm trying to think of the. If I remember, Jim, I'll send you over a message because it'll also help you with the mirage coming off of your suppressor, looking through your scope. It'll keep the heat down a little bit so you don't get that distortion.
Are you talking about like what a silicone, flexible silicone trivet?
I don't know what a trivet is, but
It's a hot pad for your pants on a kitchen table, and when you sit down.
It's not quite exactly like that. I'm sure let me go over to the chat. I'm sure somebody over there is screaming something.
Oh, okay. Let's see here.
Coltac, that's the one right there. Coltac makes one.
I like the way Kel thinks. He's asking Mikey if he can do some things to stuff. Okay, there's also 2400 degree nickel Loctite or never sees.
Mm-hmm.
On a bolt gun, it won't go above 600. Thanks, Kel. Keep them coming, buddy.
Yeah, I think
I'm
Coltac
sure you
is.
could get it hotter than that, but
Paul, please elaborate on what you're talking about. Jim, you need a suppers or wrap.
Exactly what I'm talking about. It's a sleeve that goes over your suppressor.
Oh, okay. Coltac.
So go to yeah. Mike's looking it up right now. Go to Coltac, and you'll see what we're talking about, Jim. It's basically just a sleeve that goes over your suppressor.
Silencer Co. makes some. There's a couple of companies out there that make them.
Coltac homepage. Okay, I'll go there.
Yeah, that's the brand I was thinking of, though.
Custom suppressor covers. Thanks, guys. I appreciate all this because I had no idea there were all these issues with using a suppressor on a steady basis.
Kel says burn-proof gear is another one. So. Yeah, Paul Loud says, like touching freshly cast bullets. It doesn't take longer than that lesson. No, it doesn't. So, and Kel, I'm all excited about blowing stuff up. I like blowing stuff up.
You do it long enough, though, you lose all the sensation in your fingertips, and it doesn't make a difference.
We don't have anybody that knows anything about hot lead around here, do we?
Nope.
Travis,
Nope.
Jason, Jim. You guys have heard the horror story where I cut a 6-cavity sprue open, and I was wearing shorts like Jason did that time, and all the sprue did was just fly across my leg. Just touched it and kept going. Didn't even burn me. The next day I had 6 red spots. So we don't know anything about hot lead, do we, Jason or Travis?
Not a thing.
Silly kids. So, see, those of us that have worked on cars for years are well and fully aware of the fact that stuff gets hot quick and no better than to touch stuff. So, because see, oxidant sensors suck.
Oh,
Because there's only one way to, there's 2 ways to get them out. You can take it out and then have to try and get all the crap out of the threads and hope you're okay. Or you can actually heat your exhaust up to a certain temperature and then they come right out without a problem. But then you're working on hot exhaust. So, take your choice on that. But,
I've seen the time I was cutting an exhaust system out from under a truck, and I was wearing an A-line wife beater t-shirt, undershirt. That didn't work real well for me. I got a few scars out of that.
What were you using to cut it? Torch or
Oxyacetylene torch.
Yeah, that'll cause a lot of marks real quick. Because that exhaust metal loves to pool into small little bubbles.
Bounces around and around and around.
Yeah, it's like BBs.
It looks like sand, and when you put your bare shoulder on it, I swear to God, I thought the truck was going to come up off of me a couple times. Then when what do you do? Live with the burn or go get a shirt on?
Live with the burn.
I'm laughing about the chat.
Yeah.
How bad has it gotten?
No, no bacon. I'm not powder coating yet, and I never will.
Well, don't say never.
Well, I don't intend to. I'll say that. I intend to never do it. Kel, you're disgusting.
The classic. So, yeah. Oh my goodness.
No, I intend to continue lead liquid Alox coating. That's what I intend to do.
Stubborn.
Spell it with a capital T. S-T, S, capital S, capital T. I don't care.
And senile.
Can't spell either. Can't spell with a damn.
So Travis, speaking of stubborn,
Yes.
when you cast, do you wear any safety gear yet, or are you still
What's
wearing
that?
whatever you're wearing? When you're casting,
Yeah.
listen to
I'm with
me,
you.
Depths. When you're casting, do you wear any safety gear yet? Or
I'm sorry,
do
you keep cutting out. You keep cutting out.
at the
casting.
safety gear part, you just hear remember. That's what I thought. You
He
stubborn
doesn't
son
know
of a-
what PPE is.
Do you
It's like,
what you're saying, Travis, is Jason sounds like oh, sorry,
Charlie
Phil.
Brown. It's like Charlie Brown. I just hear.
Yeah.
That's what happens when all five of us talk at the same time.
I think one of Phil's posts, some people were asking about PPE, and I had to chime in and say, "PPE, what's that?"
Yeah. No, that was over.
I forget what you were asked, what they were talking about.
No, I that was back on my podcast. I just threw up a general question of what is PPE, what could be PPE or personal protective equipment,
Beer.
and I let it turn into a rabbit hole, which was the whole point, was to get people to think outside the box and think of what could be personal protective equipment in a given situation.
Beer.
In Travis's case, the answer is nothing, because he casts in sandals, in a t-shirt, wearing shorts, with no eye pro and no gloves.
Listen, it's a life choice. Not everybody should do as I do.
Dude, the only thing between you and third degree burns is Jesus, okay? I have faith, but that's pushing it.
Listen, I've had worse. A little burn isn't going to stop me.
Okay. I'm just waiting for the moment the tinsel fairy decorates the front of his trousers and then lets you come back and have this discussion with me again.
Waiting for the tinsel fairy to decorate his face, rearrange it, and improve
That's protection right here. You get enough of this on there.
That's why I'm saying a little bit of molten lead on the front of the pants. He might change his tune then.
Hey,
he's already got all of his kids, so if he loses those, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's already. Yes, Mike.
As the guy who decided he wanted to do flaming 151 shots with us with a full face beard and mustache found out, facial hair is very flammable.
Listen, Phil knows there's some things that a guy with a beard cannot do. One, eat an ice cream cone. And take flaming shots should be right up there with.
Well, he was kind of really special.
Yeah, I've tried to explain to a few people. I'm like, having a beard, I've come to realize that there are certain things you have to be very careful when you eat, because it all winds up in your beard. Somebody is going to take that in directions it wasn't meant to go. But I'm just saying, like spaghetti, ice cream. I learned over the weekend that it is impossible to eat Popeye's fried chicken without it getting in your beard. Impossible.
Correct. How about ribs with sauce on them?
Oh no! At that point, you might as well just commit yourself to a full shampoo job when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
I say the worst I found is an ice cream cone. Taking your kids to get an ice cream cone and making your kids look like an idiot with their dad sitting there with the ice cream all over his face.
I thought this was a reloading podcast.
It could be the Beard Podcast if you two would get on board. I mean, Jason's halfway there, and me and Travis have got us covered.
See, I'm just waiting until I get as old as Jason or Jim, so then it's all gray. Because right now it's like 4 different colors.
Well, Travis named me a while ago stubborn. I do things my way.
You just saw the chat, didn't you?
No, I just looked at the chat.
Yeah.
Hey,
Payback, Phil. Payback.
Mark,
No,
sorry for all
it's
the
directed
extra
at you.
stuff. Oh my goodness. Well, Loads Bacon's upgraded his PPE. He went from no gloves to gloves, and he went from flip flops to tennis shoes. So
Baby steps.
baby steps.
Good one, Bradley. Good one.
Mhm.
I haven't seen my size 28 jeans since I was 16 years old.
28. That was probably 12. I don't know.
Rough crowd.
Yep. We love it.
You bet. All right. So, Jim,
Sir,
what's the cartridge for the cartridge corner?
it's a Wildcat.
Meow.
It's a real kitty cat. More like a bobcat. Maybe even a little bit on the order of a mountain lion. But we'll go with bobcat. The cartridge I chose this week is a Wildcat called 22-243 Winchester. All it is a 243 neck down to a 224 diameter bullet, which isn't very far. And it's going to be on the equivalent of a 220 Swift, maybe, but probably more like a 250 Remington. You're not really going to get a whole lot out of it. I have to mute myself, excuse me. When I say you're not going to get a whole lot out of it, I'm just referring to the fact that it's kind of already been done, in the 22-250 Remington cartridge. But anyway, I'll read what's written here. Bear with me, guys. I don't read well. I haven't even read this particular information just yet. But anyway, the history of the cartridge. The 243 Winchester cartridge was released in 1955, was without a doubt an immense success. Yes, of course, everybody has heard the debacle about the 6mm 244 Remington. That's what it was, 244 Remington. They screwed up, put the wrong bullet weight in. Remington did. And Winchester beat them out because they created the 243. Anyway, long story. The demand for the 243 ensured large supplies of inexpensive, readily available brass, and this in turn made the 243 an ideal candidate for wildcatting. And as we all know, the 243 parent cartridge is a 308. Sounds familiar to me. But anyway, by the early 60s, wildcatters were experimenting with the versions of the 243 case neck down to 224. Of these, 2 Wildcats were standardized by Reamer and loading die manufacturers. Both designs remain popular to this day. The first version is the 243 neck down to 224 with no other change and is designated as a 22-243 Winchester. The second version was created by a gentleman by the name of Paul Middlestead of California and features a sharper 30-degree angle, which in turn gives a longer neck for flexible bullet seating. The latter cartridge was named the 22-243 Middlestead and is currently the more popular of the 2 calibers. The 22-243 is, of course, most effective as a varmint cartridge. On medium gain, performance is relative to shot placement. You got to do your part. Bullet construction and range. The 22 to 243 can be a very spectacular killer with attention to the above factors. On light body game, this cartridge is fast killing out to 125 yards and clean killing out to 325 yards. Impact velocities of 2,600 feet per second and above. That's pretty good for impact velocity. Anyway, the 22-243 seldom produces hydrostatic shock, especially in comparison to the parent cartridge 243. Recoil is lower than the 243, but not to a greatly noticeable degree. Noise from the ultra supersonic cracker projectiles traveling at 3,800 feet per second can be extremely painful when hunting in the field without earplugs. More notes on performance can be found in the 220 Swift-Tex, which is the main body for the Ultra Velocity 22s. This information came from Ballistic Studies, by the way. It's the same place we change to. And no factory ammunition is produced for this Wildcat cartridge, by the way. And whatever you do, don't try stuffing a 243 cartridge down a 243 chamber. It won't turn out well for you. You're going to be extruding lead like a big dog. And copper too, probably. In either version, the 22-243 gives higher velocities than hand loads for the Swift. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. And performs similarly to the 223 Winchester Super Short Magnum, WSSM. The 22-243 does its best work with the same powders that give top performance in the Swift and the WSSM. ADI 2208, another name for Varget, and 4064 work well with bullets up to 55 grains, while ADI 2209 or IMR 4350 work well with bullets 60 grains and heavier. That's also good powder. IMR 4350 used to be a pretty good powder for 270 Winchester. From a 24-inch barrel, safe working maximum velocities include 4,150 feet per second with 50 grain bullets, 3,900 feet per second with 55 grain bullets, while 60 to 65 grain bullets can be driven over 3,700 feet per second. That's a screamer. 69 to 70 grain bullets achieves 34 to 3,500, while the heavier bullets, the 80 grain Hornet AMAX, can be driven up to 3,300 feet per second. Because rifles of this caliber must be custom built, the 22-243 has an advantage in having a choice of barrel twist rate. That the barrels be used on varmints through light medium gain 1 in 12 twist offers the possibilities of experimenting with low stability FMJ projectiles. The 1 in 9 twist optimizes the use of the heavier bullet weights. To avoid repetition, readers are advised to study projectile performance as discussed throughout the other 224 references in this knowledge base. Again, Mike, don't forget to put a link in there. I didn't include one, but don't forget to put a link into the Ballistic Studies because we want to be sure that they get credit for all the work they've done. I put a bunch of tables on here, guys. I'm going to finish up with the closing comments from the article, and that'll be it for me for the cartridge corner. The 22-243 is a common-sense Wildcat capable of turning out first-class accuracy. This cartridge should be seriously considered by anybody wishing to obtain an ultra-flat shooting varmint cartridge. As a medium game cartridge, the 22-243 is particularly well suited to the light-bodied animals weighing around 40 kilograms, 90 pounds, but certainly does not offer superior performance to the parent cartridge 243 Winchester. And the 243 doesn't offer the same ballistics that the 308 parent cartridge offers. But that's not part of the article. Anyway, that's it, Mike. And I think we lost Mike.
I would like to take time to thank Pinterest because I finally found a use for it.
Oh, yeah?
DIY black powder cannons.
That's legal.
Yep.
Actually, y'all should probably check out some gentlemen I met at the Appleseed event. See Hag Munitions.
Yep. He's got some really nice stuff.
And John is a wild man.
Yes, he is.
He's nuts, like in a good way, complimentary way. But he's crazy as hell. Fun guy though.
Crazy as a bed bug?
Um,
Yeah. Just say yes, Phil. It's safer that way.
I'll put you like this. There's a YouTube video of him loading up a fairly large cannon with a dining room set because he wanted to reproduce what he had seen in Pirates of the Caribbean, where they run out of cannonballs and they start stuffing forks and spoons and everything into the cannon. He wanted to see if it worked. It does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible to shove a spoon through a piece of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, heck yes. And God bless anybody that's on the other side of that piece of plywood.
Yeah. Then he led on to me what his current project is, but I don't know if I'm allowed to tell the world about it. It's insane, even compared to what he normally does.
Knowing John, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. I'm always careful, like how I put that too. Like for people that haven't met John, when I'm like, oh, he's crazy as hell. I'm like, but he's a hell of a cool, fun-loving, funny guy. He's just there's this part of your brain that tells you what a bad idea is, and he's got 3 of those. But the problem is, none of them tell him to stop. They're all like, "Ooh, that looks like fun."
Mm-hmm.
There he goes.
Oh, how nice. I even found how to make black powder on Pinterest. Now that's nice. I like
It's perfectly legal to make black powder.
Yes, it is.
Mike, your wife is going to kill you.
If he doesn't kill himself first.
She doesn't listen to the podcast. She has no freaking clue. Shut up.
Dude, if she catches you making a cannon and black powder, I'm gonna hear the beating from Louisiana.
Who says she's going to catch me?
Have you ever managed to do anything and not get caught when you were up to no good?
I can't confirm or deny that rumor on the grounds that the statute of limitations is not expired.
I rest my case.
Exactly. So. All right, gang. Back from the original reloading to current reloading. All right. Jason posted in TRR. Any advice on loading 124 grain 9mm subsonic and still cycling the P365 slide? I guess my first question would be, does anybody have an experience loading subsonic?
Well, the subsonic loads, you have to work with the 147 and heavier bullet because the pressure requirements for that do allow you to work at a subsonic level.
I really need to get quick loads.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to be messing around with your springs and stuff. And like Jim said, usually it's 147
Yeah.
above, 150s, just anything above that.
They got 160 grain now.
Yeah. And I can't speak to the piece 365 directly, but my experience with subcompacts has been that typically they don't really like downloaded ammunition. So if you're having trouble getting 124 grain to run the slide, you probably need to step up to a heavier bullet and make more pressure at a lower velocity. Because, I mean, I can get away with light loading on my full-size guns, but the subcompacts just don't like it.
Now, does he say he's running a suppressor with that?
He did not, which would probably at least go towards helping solve the problem. But I mean, regardless, if he can't get the slide to run and stay subsonic, he needs to go to heavier bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if your velocity is limited, you still have to make X amount of pressure to run the gun.
That's right. That's a fact. That's a disadvantage. That's a single disadvantage of this. That's one of the big disadvantages, I should say, of anything semi-automatic.
That's why you should just get a 45 ACP. 230 grain, subsonic all day long.
Yep, $8.95. I got 1911 upstairs.
That's because John Browning handed it to you straight off the line in World War One.
John Moses Browning speaks to God. That's a fact. I just realized my camera's off.
We weren't going to correct you.
Didn't you hear that great round of applause go out? I figured that would have been a dead giveaway.
Anyway,
You didn't notice that any of us stopped throwing up?
Jason's so proud of himself when he gets you.
why do you think I let him have so many?
Oh, jeez.
Anyway. Yeah, that's the answer. Load heavier bullets to keep your pressure up.
We'll see how John Moses Browning came up with the idea for the 45 ACP as he saw Jim chucking cannonballs and said, "Oh, that's a good idea. A big, heavy object going really slow." And there you go.
Took you all week to think of that one, didn't it, bitch?
Well, you know, I actually started on that one about 3 weeks ago, so.
I don't doubt it. You have to do better than that.
Uh-huh. All right.
45 caliber pumpkins.
So I guess maybe when I get some time, I'll start seeing if I can play around and come up with something. I don't know. But I guess I really do need to get, or the podcast, I should say, needs to get quick loads. So then we can have some ability to play around with some of this stuff. Anyway. Jason posted, or Cole posted in TRR also. He in need of help. I bought a 223 RCBS AR series die. Had the decapping pin break almost instantly. RCBS offers a couple of different styles of decapping pins. Does anyone know which ones I need? Then they were a few suggestions that were made from that on the decappings. And he says, thanks for all your help. I was able to get new decapping pins on order. He doesn't say which ones, but his follow-up is, what's the budget approach to dealing with crimped primer pockets? And now you know why he was breaking pins. So
I'm kind of confused by that, though, because, I mean, I handle a fair amount of 5.56 military brass with crimp pockets. I've never broken a decapping pin.
Yeah, but Phil, what you haven't run into that yet is an undersized flash hole. The decapping pins you're using are like a number 70. I think, Jason, will you help me out with this? Diameter on that, what is it, 0.055?
I think there's
believe so.
0.055, and then there's also 0.70.
Okay.
Two sizes.
But now the problem is the flash hole itself is undersized. It's more like 0.045, which is going to cause it to either seize onto the end of the pin or you're going to break your pin. Some of the manufacturers out there are making undersized flash holes. Single holes, to be sure, but they're undersized.
Guess I've just gotten lucky up to this point.
You have been. Well, you're using LC brass, right? Most of the time.
I use range brass. I mean, I get some Lake City, I get some Federal, I get some 223 brass. You know how I roll, man. Whatever comes in the bucket goes in the press.
Some of the stuff I know has been made internationally, but yet still has a single flash hole. I found that undersized flash hole, and it's a bear. It's just it's enough to turn the language air around me blue.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like budget solutions dealing with crimp primer pockets, I really like RCBS's little kit. the one that mounts in the press, and you ram the brass up onto the pin.
Well, you're talking about the primer pocket RCBS primer pocket swaging kit.
Waging kit, yes.
The long-term answer to the guy's question is that's the most cost-efficient way of doing it. It's the most cost-effective way, and you won't oversize your flash holes or your primer pockets when you do that.
Nope.
But now, I know there are people out there that use drill bits because they're taking the corner off the primer pocket. The sharp corner, they're taking it off, putting a little chamfer on. There are people out there that use countersinks, they put it in their cordless drill, and 2 or 3 turns of that removes enough brass to put a chamfer on the edge of the primer pocket to make it a little easier to seat your primer. That's another way. Jason, you got other ways? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I don't know.
How about a drill bit? Drill bit rotated.
Oh, number 50 drill bit. Was that it?
Yeah, well, you're talking about the flash hole, sir. I'm talking about the primer pocket sharp corner. Crib corner.
Swage it is what I use on my 650. But also pocket reamer. What else am I trying to think of? Chamfer tool. You can use a chamfer tool.
Yep.
I was curious as to what Travis has on his 1050. I'm sure you got something for that. What do you use?
So on the 1050, that's the reason I bought it, is it has its own built-in swager. So you don't have to add anything to it.
Okay.
I was just looking up a couple things real quick. I don't know, maybe Mike can look it up for us real quick on this, the RCBS, the primer pocket swager setup. I think that's a pretty inexpensive setup, and that's what I got right here.
Mm-hmm.
And these, they got to be, well, let's let Mike figure it out. I'm not going to say a price. But I know this is a very handy, nice little setup, and I think this is what you're using, right, Phil? The RCBS?
Yeah, it looks similar. It's got the mandrel is mounted on the yep, that's it.
Yeah, so this goes up into your press, and this little rod I just threaded in is your swage backer pin. So this die body goes up in your press. This swage backer here, you got your small primer and your large primer backers right here. So you thread this into your die, you run this into your press, and then it's got these little mandrels that go into your shell holders. And of course you got small and large. So you put these in your press, and it's got this little cup. So this is in your press. This goes on top like this. And that reason you need this cup is so when this comes down and swages your primer pocket, this cup will actually pop off and it won't make your brass stick. And I got a piece of brass somewhere here. Without that little cup, you can get your brass stuck on there. So this little cup goes on, and when you raise your press down, it pops this off. And I think this, for a guy not doing a lot by hand, this is going to be the cheapest, most effective setup for somebody.
And I've probably loaded 2,000 rounds of 5.56 using that on a rock cutter, but I'm stubborn.
And I know there's two trains of thought that some guys do not like using drill bits or such to remove material from your primer pockets. They would rather swage it and reform and get that crimp out. So it depends on what a guy is comfortable doing with his setup. Did you see how much these are, Mike?
Just got posted.
RCBS?
$37 on Amazon.
Okay. So I was just looking at one of my favorite websites here. I'll bring that up here in a minute, but there's a deal you can get on something. So if I had to buy one, I think I would go with the Dillon. What is the designation of that Swager that you have, Mike? Their Dillon table mounted one.
Oh, the primer pocket swaging thing, Dillon 600.
Yes, the Dillon 600. I've seen where guys use that and they put a little spring on there so you can just chuck these in, pull the handle, swage it, and then the spring helps chuck these out. So you can do a lot more with that versus this RCBS or such press mounted where you're handling each individual one and it takes a little bit more time. But this RCBS works great. There's no denying that. A lot of primer pockets have been swaged with these.
Yeah, the only thing I tell people that are going to get into that for the first time is, I mean, personally, I use the Imperial case sizing wax, and I make a point of when I'm handling because I always swage after resizing, but before I wash my brass. So I always make a point of, like, every so many rounds, I'll actually take some of that lube, that the Imperial case sizing wax, I'll just kind of build up on your fingertips and wipe it on the top of the mandrel. Just a little tiny bit of lube, make things work a little nicer.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Primer, once you get going on 223 brass, primer pockets are the bane of our existence.
It's not that bad.
It's not bad for me either, but for a lot of guys, it is the worst.
I don't get that personally. I mean,
I know a lot of guys who separate all their crimp stuff and they just either toss it, you know.
I run so much range brass through my reloading press. I even if I know it came out of my gun, it's still going to get swaged again. That's just how I am, because I mean, I don't separate out what I picked up from what I shot. It all gets trimmed. It all goes through the swager every single time.
Yeah, that's the main reason I got the 1050. So for someone like me, I don't care what I put in there. It gets swaged. I don't care what I pick up. That's the nice thing with Jason. He's got a 650 with the swage it. He doesn't care either. I'm sure he just, whatever he runs through there, he has no concerns if it's crimped or not. He can take that on and have no concerns.
That's why I like my rock chucker, because poverty.
That's right. The point was the most economical way.
Yeah.
The most economical way, everybody has a set of drill bits at home. Use a drill bit, but you better be very careful on how much material you take out of that primer pocket, because you're going to loosen it up at the very least, or cut too much off, create a funnel, and then you're going to start having what's called flattened primers.
Yeah, that removing some material like that, right, Jim? You have to be very certain the size of drill bit and what you're doing, because if you're off just a little bit, you're going to get loose primer pockets, and then you just destroyed all your brass that you did that to.
You're absolutely right, Travis. And the other bad thing about you working with the brass itself, it's what they call grabby. You put it in there, you hit it in there a little too fast, the drill bit will snatch the brass right out of your hand and start rotating it, and it's too late. You just scrapped one case.
The other reason I like the RCBS swage it once you get it all set up, it is idiot proof and it's consistent. As long as you actuate the press through its full range of motion, you're always going to get exactly the same result every time.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Phil, because RCBS designed that tool, that setup, and that little cup for the rock chucker. Now, I use that same kit in my Lee Classic 3-hole turret press. I had to actually create a longer sleeve, or a longer cup, shall we say, to come down further over, create a longer skirt down over the ram of the press so that it would pop the case off sooner. But,
I remember when I was using that, the RCBS swage it, I would, tell me if this is how you do it, Phil. I remember I'd grab a several in my hand and I would chuck one on, crank the handle, and then I could flick off the other one, and in the same motion, hurry and stick another one on. So I remember I was actually going pretty quick with it like that. And you do have a feel you get it on there, you can almost instantly feel if you have one that doesn't actually need swaged, or if one you got crimped, and just by the feel, you get into a nice rhythm, and you can actually go pretty quick with those.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But I mean, like I said, I swage every single one.
Mike's got one in his hand. We all at least 4 of us have the RCBS primer pocket swaging kit. I do believe Dylan named their device Swage It. We're talking about the swaging kit.
Dylan doesn't make the swage. That's an aftermarket part. You're thinking of the
Okay.
Super Swager?
Super Swager, that's what it is. The Super Swager, that little blue one that mounts, and it doesn't come with the spring, but I know a lot of guys are adding this aftermarket setup that they've created with the little spring that kind of chucks it out.
Tosses
know
it
how
into
much-
the box or whatever. Next, strips it off and tosses it into
Mhm.
another box.
Yeah, so how much is that setup? Because like we said, this here is $37. How much is that Super Swager?
I'll check, but I know it's money because it's blue.
Well, I would say it's on the order of $65 to $80.
I'm looking at 135, just the first place I looked.
I think I've seen them used for between 80 to 100 something bucks. I know Mike picked one up not too long ago.
MSRP is 109.95.
109. Honestly, that's money well spent if for a piece of equipment like that. If you don't remove the crimp, you're not going to be able to use the brass, so you're going to need something like that.
Biscuits.
Now, if you guys go over to one of my favorite websites, mightyarmory.com, he has a little kit that he says is the Mighty Armory Easy Decapping and Primer Pocket Swage Set. And it comes with his version of a primer pocket swaging setup, and it comes with one of his Mighty Armory decapping dies, and the price on that is $69.95. So you can pick up everything you need for the process right there for $70. Do any of you guys use any kind of a universal decapping die in your setups?
I have one out there in the garage right now.
Yeah, I've got the Lee.
So do I. I need it after I tumbled my decap brass. I need it
Jason?
to clear the flash holes.
Yep,
Jason,
I do.
what do you use?
I don't remember the brand. I got a Universal. Probably RCBS.
This is that cap that Jim was talking about that he had to make longer.
Right. Create a longer skirt on it. Actually, what I did was I just took a bar of solid stock longer and countersunk it out, counterboarded it out. Pull your camera down a little lower, Mikey,
Working
because
on it.
right now you're behind the photo bar. There you go. Thumbnail bar. Can't see it.
So that's that. And I don't know if I'll be able to focus with the camera or not.
It's focused.
No, I want to.
Oh,
So you can see that pin there. It's not focusing. There we go. So that's that rod that Travis was showing everybody earlier.
That is your swage backer.
So
that's going to wind up against the head of the case, the web of the case on the inside.
And we actually did this in episode 205. So if you go back to 205 on YouTube, you'll see it. So
Yeah, that swage backer rod adds support for when your mandrel pushes up against your primer pocket. you got something solid there to help keep everything supported. And you can see right there, he's got either a large or a small in his hand there, but
Large.
that's what that's for. And there's
So
a
this
little
actually
mandrel.
goes in the shell holder, and then it's designed to meet up like that in your primer pocket. So.
And it's important that you have that swage backer rod adjusted right.
Yep. Yes, it is.
You might not fully be swaging your primer pocket if you don't have that adjusted correctly.
Nope. And then that won't wind up well. Let's see if I can reach that, Dylan. Take the camera off me and you guys can keep talking.
So while he's doing what he's doing,
Let's talk smack
got-
about him.
well, I generally run a Mighty Armory decapping die, but I also found this other company that I've really been liking his decapping setup, and it's a FW Arms.
You're cheating
And-
on Mighty Armory? The horror.
I say this setup here is actually quite nice. If you guys can see, I'll explain it to the listeners. It's got a universal body here, and then it has kind of a brass spring-loaded guide. So when this is mostly best used for an automated press. But as you're, let's say I got 223 brass right here. This brass bushing actually helps line everything up and keeps it all nice and centered, so you can pop out your primers on there. And I've been running this quite a bit, and I really actually enjoy this. And I think you guys, especially guys running any kind of progressive, should kind of go check this out and see what you guys think about it. It looks a little odd because it's so tall, but it actually works really well.
So here's the Super Swage 600 pin. And then right down in here, get my fat hand out of the way, you can kind of see the swage comes out. If I hold the camera still. There. You can see that move back in and out. So that's how that one works.
We have incoming.
What's that?
Friendly flyers from Fort Bragg. I'm hearing some Blackhawks.
Oh. Fun.
Mm-hmm. Love them boys. They're up there taking care of us, protecting our back.
So one of the things they're still talking about is the subsonic 124 load in the chat. They're talking about universal at starting loads. Was one of the recommendations. And then they were talking about sorry. They were talking about the League Universal Decapping die and then putting the Squirrel Daddy pins in it. Squirrel Daddy pins are they're a different composition than the factory Lee pins. The factory Lee pins are designed to break under pressure or bend under pressure so you don't damage anything else. Whereas the Squirrel Daddy pins are a lot stronger.
I think they're a heat treated out tool steel.
Yeah. The problem that most people don't realize is that a lot of times it's not the up and down that breaks the pin. It's when it starts to get caught and flex sideways. That's what snaps the pin. So. But
Yeah, I know I talk a lot of good stuff about Mighty Armory, but you can literally take a burdained prime piece of brass and you'll create a new pinhole through it and you won't break a pin. The only time I ever break a pin is like Mike just said, especially on a progressive. You guys running a single stage will never run into this. But on a progressive, you can get a little bit of wobble. And if you go down, you'll scour down the side of the case and you'll actually bend your pin. That's where you get pin damage. This FW arm decapping die, that's one thing I'm liking about it, is it's got this brass guide bushing. So if your brass has some wobble, this brass guide catches it, lines everything up before it goes into the die body. I used a Lee Universal decapper for years and years. I have a package just for proof. I got a pack of 5 or 6 pins right here. And I had to have so many because, yeah, they were breaking all the time. I know it's a cheap setup and it works, but it just gets kind of frustrating when you're breaking pins all the time. That's why I kind of switch over to something else, is just so I'm not having some downtime.
All right, have we beaten that topic enough?
maybe.
This is only like the 10th time I've talked about it.
Maybe not. All right. So yeah, like I said, episode 205. We talked about swaging. So. All right. Eric posted in Reloading Room, I'm hand annealing and feel like I can get decently consistent results. Hand drill on slow speed, rotating the case in a deep well socket, neck and shoulder over a propane torch, counting to a metronome. I've been dropping the rounds into a dish of water to quench them when I'm finished the heating. Any issue with that, or should they air cool? Well, the first thing I would recommend is start using some Tempolac. If you're going to hand anneal, it's fine, but start using some Tempolac because that's going to give you a better idea of when you've hit the correct temperature. For those who don't know what Tempolac is, Jim, you want to explain it?
Tempolac is a paint stick that melts at a certain temperature. And they come in several different increments. I don't know what the range is. I don't know what the spread is.
I think
I would
750, 450, and 9 something.
As I said, I wouldn't know. I've never used this stuff because I did my brass the way this member did. I did my brass by hand in a darkened room where I could just barely start seeing the brass turning from a sort of a dark grayish red once it's that hot. But I had it also standing up in a pan of water from about a quarter inch below the shoulder to the head of the case. Head of the case never got hot and just normalized.
The reason you had it in the water, Jim, was so you didn't have the transfer of heat down into the body of your case, correct?
That is correct, but the second reason is it's not for so much for quenching it as it is to cool the brass off quickly so I can handle it without getting burned. Once you heat up brass, you don't have to. The question is, does he have to air cool it? No, he doesn't have to air cool it, but air cooling doesn't change a thing. Once you heat your brass up, it normalizes, and that's it. The quenching is for your safety, your convenience, and so on and so forth. If you want to wait, let your brass stay hot, that's all right. But you do run the risk, if you get it a little too hot, of doing exactly what Travis is talking about, letting too much heat get down into the body of the case.
So it's okay to anneal it and then go directly into water. You're not going to change the composition of anything by doing it that way.
Well, you will change the granule structure of the brass itself. That's what's called it's called normalizing. You're making it go back to normal.
Okay, I've never seen anybody. I've seen a lot of videos and stuff. I've never annealed, but I've never seen anybody go into water. I've always seen them just let it air cool.
Either way works well, but the thing is with the water treatment or throwing it in water, dropping it or standing it in water, it's for your convenience and your safety most of all. And of course it does prevent the transfer of the heat down to the head of the case, which you absolutely do not want. I did it once. I'll never do it again.
Now, Jason, have you ran your new annealing machine yet?
I don't have mine yet.
Oh, Dusty hasn't. He's been slacking.
Yeah, Dusty's been slacking, and I'm gonna have to go beat his ass or something.
When you get that, what caliber is it set up? He has it kind of set up so you can do a bunch of different ones. But what are you mostly going to be annealing with it?
6.5 and 308.
Do you even shoot much 223 anymore, Jason?
No, I don't.
What brass was you annealing, Jim, when you did it in the pan?
Would ask me that. 308. That was up in Pennsylvania. That was a long time ago. And it was mostly just to extend the life of the brass, because I was starting to get a few cracks and splits, and I knew it because from brass embrittlement. Once I saw that, I threw the crack split stuff away, and I started normalizing my brass again.
Yeah, so I like how Jason's friend Dusty built one, and I made the mistake of deciding I was going to build one also, and then I went down the rabbit hole of all the different designs and stuff you can make one. What's your guys' thoughts on induction annealing versus the flame?
Well, number one, Travis, a lot of people, I know what they are, but a lot of people don't even know the difference. Why don't you explain, please?
Will you explain? Because you can explain it better.
Well, induction is using an electric current in a coil and having the case mouth down inside this electrical field, causing the brass to heat up. The problem with that is you've got to find a way of holding on to it. You hold on to it with your fingers, you're going to find out you shouldn't have. Simple as that. Same with flame treatment. But the flame treatment is obvious. You're using a propane torch or oxyacetylene if you really want to spend money, and you're heating up the brass with a torch of some kind or another. But what Travis is talking about is a machine that rotates and rolls the cases in front of a torch for a certain amount of time, and then drops it out into either a holding box or into a bucket of water or whatever. And I would imagine the induction system is similar in that it holds a case in an induction field long enough for it to heat up some way or another, something mechanical, and then it removes it from the coils, from within the coil, and takes it out, quenches it somehow or another, or lets it cool, whatever.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the holdups. I want to make one, but there's a couple induction ones that I've seen, and like you just explained, I guess that's one of the holdups sometimes is they don't have a feeding and removal mechanism as easily as, say, a flame type setup, because a lot of the flames, they have like a rotating table that a bunch of brass is sitting in a circle, and it rotates, goes underneath your flame, and then the brass turns for whatever set amount of time, and then the table turns again, and it can drop the piece of brass through a chute into whatever holding device you have. But a lot of these induction ones, they either look like they're kind of just makeshift setup to remove the brass. A lot of them, it looks like you just drop it in by hand, and then you have to remove it some way. They just don't seem as production friendly. Yeah, production friendly. But it sounds like a lot of guys prefer the induction annealing.
Well, I would imagine it's because it's controlled with electricity. You can control the flow of the electricity to the coil a little bit easier than you can with the propane. The propane torch is going to be whatever that is at the cone. And the only way to take and get your brass not quite so hot is to back the flame off a little bit. Because propane is going to burn it. I don't know what the numbers are. I'm going to make something up. Propane might burn at 3,500 degrees, but yet, the only way to keep from overheating your brass is to pull your torch back a little bit. Well, that's wasting your fuel. But with the induction system, I would imagine you can control your electrical flow pretty precisely anymore. I know there's some PIF or PDF or PID controllers out there. Yeah, thank you, Travis. That there's some sort of a controller out there where they can control the actual temperature of the induction coil or the temperatures within 1 degree. That's real precision. That's real accuracy. But when you're talking about induction, just visualize a coil of wire, heavy wire, sort of shaped like a coffee cup, except it's got a hole at the bottom, and your brass drives right down through the coil. Well, it goes through slowly or whatever is lowered, but you have to find a way to control that so the brass can spend enough time in that field to heat up the neck. But the problem is you don't want to put the whole case through. That'll overheat the head of the case. And then again, you've got weakened primer pockets.
Yeah, the whole point of annealing is to soften your brass so you don't work harden it after, sizing the neck over and over again. So you anneal it to soften that back up, but you do not want to have that heat transfer past your neck because then you weaken your case.
That's right. I did it with 20 rounds of 270 Winchester years and years ago with oxyacetylene torch. I fired 1 round. I pulled the rest of the ammo apart and threw it all away. Scrapped it.
Why?
Why? Because gas blew right down the firing pin passage, right into my face. The primer didn't pierce the primer pocket, blew gas back because I had softened the head of the case too much, and it expanded. When the case went off, the primer pocket expanded, allowing gas to come right back into my eye. But anyway, the thing is, too, reloaders are a bunch of cheapskates. Okay? Travis spends a good deal of money on his. I used to. Well, I'm retired now, supposedly, and I can't really afford to spend a whole lot of money on it. So we have to do things cheaply. After all, reloaders are the original recyclers.
And everybody knows you save money reloading.
Absolutely. As long as you self-discipline yourself to work within the same parameters of the budget, you can shoot a lot more for the same amount of money. Yeah. Anyway, Jason spends money, Mikey spends money, I spend a few dollars once in a while. But anyway.
And speaking of annealing, now Jason's friend Dusty joins the chat. Dusty, when are you going to get Jason his annealer so he can talk about it on the podcast? He's been waiting for that for months.
Oh, we're not going to tell him that Jason said he's going to beat Dusty's ass if he doesn't get it soon.
Yeah, we won't mention that part. He said he has the pan, the hardware, and the feed rail.
He also has excuses, apparently.
Ooh, damn. Yeah. God, you guys are playing rough.
Now, I've seen a picture of this, Jason. Was that not yours?
No, it was his.
Well, shouldn't he give you that one and then make the other one for himself?
Never buy the first generation. Always go for Gen 2.
You'll survive, Dusty. Trust me, buddy. You'll survive. Well explained, Paul. We like what you said. Soft brass at the neck allows the bullet to be released evenly. Exactly.
Now you guys hurt Dusty's feelings.
If he hangs out with Jason, he ain't got no feelings.
He should have enlisted. He wouldn't have any feelings left.
Good
grief.
It's funny how veterans can tell each other.
Somebody recently told me that said, I don't want to offend you. And I just kind of cocked my head to the side a little bit. I'm like, we must have just met. I enlisted. I'm like, I don't think you know words capable of hurting my feelings, but try.
Freaking liberal shitheads. Take it
No,
out.
if you call me a liberal, then we will fight.
No.
I'll drive all the way to Pennsylvania and beat a senior citizen.
Good luck with that, because I ain't going to be there.
Now, what we need to do is we need to stop saying liberal and we need to start saying anti-gun, because there's lots of liberals that own firearms.
Fair point. But as far as Jim goes, all I have to do is tell Marissa what you really spend on reloading stuff, and she'll tell me where you are.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh.
Yes, fair point.
And no, I want to get back to the show notes if you don't mind.
Why?
Okay. Why?
Why? You act like that's what we're supposed to be doing or something.
Yeah,
you're trying to make this professional or something?
Oh,
you mean this isn't the Rabbit Hole podcast?
Question number 5. Tyler and Trisket posted in the Reloading Room group on Facebook, I'm looking into getting reloading. I've been saving my brass from Federal for when I get equipment and knowledge. 9mm, 223, and 50 Action Express. What's recommended to start with on the research path, like books or links to articles? Well,
go ahead, Jim.
Jason, help us out with that one. What's the first book we generally recommend people buy in the Reloading Room?
ABCs of Reloading.
Thank you, sir. Read that book. It's a book about reloading, isn't it, Jason?
Something like that, yeah.
It's not a book it's about reloading equipment, about how to reload, about what processes go on when you reload. You can get some of that from the reloading manuals, yes, but this book doesn't contain any recipes.
Now, is it a picture book?
No, I'll have to talk to Mr. James about that. I have his email address. Mr. James, would you mind creating a book for Travis Buck, because he can't read?
No, I was going to say, I know Phil hasn't read it if it's not a picture book.
You mean they make books without pictures?
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the link in there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's what we generally recommend for everyone just getting started, is to buy themselves a copy. It's on Amazon Kindle. It's also, of course, hard copy. The book, ABCs of Reloading, goes both ways. E-copy and hard copy.
And paperback.
I have some feedback from Dusty, Mike. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, I would.
This podcast is about as professional as a $2 whore on nickel night, but I love it.
That's a new one.
Kind of deserve that.
Yeah, we do.
Guilty as charged.
That was a good one, Dusty.
That was. Not as good as him flying a C-17 to Phil's door, but you know.
That's something I'd love to see.
I'd like to see a C-5 better than the C-17.
I've been in both. C-17 is way more comfortable.
That's why I said
Sorry.
C-5.
Never saw the inside of one. The closest I came was C-130 rides, and those things are hell.
Yeah, you got that right. So were the C-141s.
All right. So yeah, there's links in the show notes for all the stuff that we're talking about. Well, most of it anyway. So.
But for reals, Dusty, get that finished for Jason so we can see what it's about. We want parts lists. We want prices stuff.
I did figure out how
everything.
Speaking of, Travis, remember that 24-volt induction coil?
Yes.
I did figure out how we can power that. So.
Okay, send that to me. That was one thing I don't know what I'm doing, so I'll blow something up if I don't have directions.
Yeah. No, we'd still have to get a PID designed for it. So, but I know how to power it now. So
That's all that counts. I can figure out the other part. I got
at this
somebody.
point in time, I'm still under $100 for it.
Nice.
So, last question of the night. Todd Ferns posted in TRR, the reloading room. I'm in need of some help. I cast for and reload for a 1911. What's a 1911? Anybody
What's
know?
that?
What's that?
What's that?
Oh yeah, that's that 45 that won 2 world wars.
It was the most
And the Korean conflict too, and even the Vietnam conflict.
So
Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
he is casting and reloading for a 1911, which would be 45 ACP. He just picked up a SIG P320. Can I run cast bullets through that barrel? I know you can't with a Glock, but I'm not sure about a SIG. Please help. First off, that is absolute and total utter baloney that you can't run cast through a Glock barrel. Bullcrap. Jason, Jim, how many thousands of rounds do you have down your Glock barrels?
Well, I couldn't even venture a guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say 10,000.
Okay. Both factory Glock barrels.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's hooey.
Well, Mike, before you go jump into it like you did, you know from experience, you're using your experience. You need to qualify that.
Right. I'm going to.
Please do.
So if you get lead from your hardware store and you get pure lead and use that, no. You can't use that. Probably really are going to have problems with no matter what barrel you put it down because it's too soft. However, if you have the proper hardness of lead, and it's not straight lead, at that point in time it's lead alloy because you're mixing other metals into it, then it is hard enough. You will not have problems with leading your barrels. You also shouldn't have problems with it skipping over the rifling and not twisting. So, which is the big issue with the Glocks with the polygonal, whatever the heck you want to call it, rifling, is that it's not necessarily cut as deep as your traditional rifling, and so your softer bullets have a tendency to just mush and go straight instead of actually catching the rifling and twisting. The exception to using a soft alloy, if you powder coat, because when you powder coat, it actually creates a hardened surface that can grab the rifling. Now, ultimately, if you're going to cast bullets for either of those firearms, you need to slug the barrel, especially if you want to make sure you're doing it proper. Because if you slug the barrel, then you're going to find out just exactly how big of diameter that is. Because yes, it's supposed to be 4.52, but anybody who's done this for a while knows it may not always be 4.52. It could surprise you and be 4.51. It could be as much as 4.54, 4.55. You know, especially if it's a 1911 and say, just to presuppose, say it's actually a honest to goodness 1911 A1 or 1911. Yes, that would be the original version from back in 1911, 1912. I think the A1, I don't remember what year the A1 came out because I don't spend that much time memorizing that history. But if you had one of those and it's still got the original barrel, that barrel could be worn out and you could literally have a 4.56 or a 4.57 diameter. So, you know, there's a lot of different things, and that's the reason you should slug that barrel. So there's a couple different ways to slug the barrel. Common one is people will take buckshot and pound it down the barrel with a dowel. There's actually kits you can get for slugging barrels. Brownells carries them. I'll put a link in the show notes for that. So, but if you do your due diligence, there is no problem to shooting cast bullets in a Glock or in a 1911 or in a SIG P320. I have a P250. Theoretically, they're the same barrel. And I've shot cast 45 through that, so without a problem, without letting. But so I will find the link for that casting kit for Brownells, or the slugging kit, and put it in the show notes.
Once again, that stuff's called SeroSafe.
That's for chamber casting.
Right. That's not for shoving clear down through the bore.
No, that's not good to shove through the bore.
Because that stuff is probably a little bit too hard. It would probably damage your bore. What SeroSafe is for is taking measurements of the chamber itself, not the diameter of the bore.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I thought you could use it for either or.
No, sir. Absolutely not. You will damage your barrel if you start pounding that stuff down. Because remember, you pour it into the chamber end, so you're actually theoretically shoving the chamber itself down to your rifling, which is not what you want to do. You know, would you take a loaded round, no powder, no primer, but just take an assembled round and drive it down through your bore? Of course not. With SeroSafe, you're driving something quite a bit harder than that. Yeah, I'm glad you we corrected that.
And that does bring up another point, Jim.
Sure.
When you are slugging your barrel, you do want to start with the chamber and drive it that way, because if you do it the other way, there's a really good chance you can screw up your crown.
That's right. You'll drive the steel rod or the brass rod right into the crown of the barrel.
Yeah, so the
Okay,
time
how do you do that with the revolver then?
Flip the cylinder out.
And drive in from the cylinder end of the barrel? I don't think so. Jason's got a point.
Oh, you could do it. You just need like an elf hammer. So no,
Yeah.
that would be the exception to the rule. So
I see that evil grin, Jason.
keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
the only time I've slugged my barrel on my 9mm is I've taken a Lee 358 diameter mold and used pure lead and shoved that through. But I always thought you guys were kind of saying that SeroSafe was you could use that for either or. So I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, no.
SeroSafe is a low temperature casting compound that you could pour in. You plug the barrel most of the way up. You put a patch in or something like that and plug it with a wooden rod. But the SeroSafe you pour in from the chamber end, but it's I think it melts at temperatures like 185 degrees. Really low temperature stuff. But I know it's not all as hard as steel, but it's considerably too hard to drive through. Mike, you have some stuff here in the show notes that it looks like information from an email.
Yep. If you want to read that.
Okay. You want me to actually narrate it here on the show?
Well, I was just going to read it.
Okay, go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Travis, and I'm sending this message to weigh in on the issue of chamber pressure as it pertains to the length of the barrel, given the same caliber, bullet, brass, etc. He must be Canadian or Australian, the way he spelled caliber, etc. Don't worry, we don't hold it against him. And whether you would see higher pressure. The chamber pressures from one to the other will be the same essentially, unless there is a major discrepancy or variation in chamber dimensions. This was brought up with a couple weeks ago when we were talking. A gentleman who wrote in and had a handgun and a lever action in the same caliber and wanted to know about loading for the difference and pressure wise and stuff. Lever action chamber is actually going to handle more pressure than the handgun by design, so he was kind of trying to figure that out. So, and then we got a follow-up question on would barrel length affect chamber pressure? So that's kind of where that. So barrel, it says chamber pressure from one to the other will be the same essentially unless there is a major discrepancy or variation in the chamber dimensions. Typically in a rifle chamber, you're going to probably have a little deeper throat than a pistol because you have the space to work with. So that would change that there. Barrel length will increase the duration to which the pressure is able to take effect on the bullet as it pertains to acceleration. But when you will see the highest pressure is when ignition occurs and the pressure rises in the case before the bullet's dislodged from its static location, i.e. crimped in its case. Jim mentioned previously how the bullet welds itself to the brass when he was talking about his 280 AI loads concentricity and how it would take adjusting seating depth slightly to release the mechanical lock of the bullet in the brass. And this is what is the cause of the high initial pressure. As the vessel increases, the pressure will drop as was stated. The vessel being the space in the chamber and the barrel behind the bullet as it leaves the barrel. Powder does have a greater amount of time to burn, but as the bullet is down the barrel further, it will help overall velocity, but it won't make pressure reach the initial pressure seen in the chamber at the ignition before the bullet is dislodged. Additionally, this is why jamming a bullet into the lands can be so dangerous, as this is one of the biggest reasons that one will see extreme pressure spikes. My best regards to you all from down here in Dickeyville, Wisconsin, not too far from Mike. I'm an avid hand loader for precision shooting, and I do my fair share of reloading as well for plinking pistol, rifle, and shotgun ranging from 9 up to 300 rum. Keep up the good work, guys. Oh, so he's not Canadian. What the hell? We don't spell caliber that way in Wisconsin. Damn it. Now I'm going to have to go have a talk with that boy. On a serious note, thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the input.
Nice article.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was trying to indicate when we were talking too is, yeah, your rifle chamber actually is going to probably, theoretically, your pressure, if the load's the same, the crimp's the same and everything. So let's say you're using a Dillon 650 and it's 45 Colt, not ACP, but 45 Colt. So theoretically, every single cartridge is going to be the same charge, same crimp, same everything. So theoretically, at the point of ignition, until the bullet starts moving, they would have equal pressure. Now, once the bullet starts moving and the brass starts expanding, is when you're going to get the variations with the rifle chamber versus the pistol chamber. So, especially if it's a revolver. Because revolvers, you're already starting to bleed off pressure as soon as the bullet jumps the cylinder into the barrel. Whereas with the rifle, the only jumping is all still enclosed. So you're not bleeding off any gas like you would be in a revolver. And I cannot find that stupid slugging thing, so I will find it and include that in the show notes for later. But I've spent too much time looking for that already.
Well, thank you to Mr. Travis for this well-written article.
Yep. So. All right.
Don't forget to plug the MeWe and Facebook groups.
Yep, I will. Well, you just did. So no, I was just looking at the chat. And they're talking about what we were talking about with bullet jump and slugging a barrel and all sorts of fun stuff. So if you hop over to YouTube and watch the show, the chat will scroll as it goes. So that's always a good thing to check that out because there's lots of good stuff going on there. All right, gang. So you want to send us an email like Travis did. It's reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to join us, I do post the links for the YouTube. I don't know what you want to call it anymore. The YouTube viewing or live viewing, live video, whatever.
The live recording.
Sure. That works. Anyway, I post that link on the Reloading Podcast Facebook page, the Reloading Podcast group. And then for those who are Patreons in the Reloading Podcast Patreon group, I try and remember to put it on MeWe. I forgot tonight. So sorry about that. But we do have a Reloading Podcast group over on MeWe. If you want a question answered for the show, post it there. Send us an email. Let us know. If you have a question you need answered right away, hop onto the Facebooks. Head over to the Reloading Room. Use the Google search and see if somebody's already asked your question. Jim, how long has it been around?
Since July the 5th, 2011.
All right. So we're coming up on 8 years.
Yes, sir.
And there is thousands and thousands and thousands of members. And there is, I bet you if we probably close to 1 million questions that have been answered. Or asked.
Oh, God. How would you go about getting all that data?
Well, that's where the search comes in. So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, it'll search all the way back to the first post if you really want to. So,
yeah, then you'll find me bitching about the fact I couldn't spell. I had to rename the Reloading Room from the Reading Room to the Reloading Room.
Mm-hmm.
That's my first post.
Sounds like a personal problem.
It was. And I have fixed it since. But anyway.
Indeed. You can also text us or give us a voicemail at 608-467-0308. It's a Google Voice number. So I don't know if it works overseas or not. But otherwise, contact information for us is all in the show notes. And you can find the show notes at firearmsradio.tv/reloading-podcast.
Yep, bump them guys up. They're the ones that back us up.
Yeah, want to thank the Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out. Also, want to thank the Patriot Patch Company for their continued support of this program. PatriotPatch.co. Oh my goodness, I saw the new patch of the month for June, and it's pretty sweet. So, but yeah, we want to thank our Patreons who have really stepped up and helped us out and have helped us improve the program, help improve the quality of the program. Sometime this week, dear Patreons, I am going to do a drawing for a Mech 600, 650? I can't remember. Oops. Sorry, Mark, you're going to take that out. Mech 600 Junior. I will be doing a drawing for. So, sometime this week. And then I'll get that shipped out next week. So, I'll give a warning when I go to do that. But I'll do it through the, probably through the Facebook group. Let's see if I can live broadcast through MeWe too. I don't know. But if you absolutely abhor YouTube and you still want to see our live videos, you can go to gunstreamer.com. You'll see the videos. Unfortunately, you won't see the chat, but that's a good place. Loads of Bacon has an awesome place for people to go check out. Travis?
Reloadersnetwork.com.
Yes. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the ins and outs and stuff. We don't really have a presence on Reloaders Network yet because, frankly, I haven't had time to get serious about it. So, but yeah, so that's one of the things on my project list for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, and I just put a whole bunch of buttas and sows and stuff for Mark to take out. So he's gonna hate me for that. You're welcome, Mark. Big shout out to Mark Hookham, who does the content editing for our podcast. It saves me hours every week that I don't have to go through and do that. So I'm grateful for that. And grateful for the 4 peoples on the other side of the camera hanging out with me every week. That they're able to put aside their personal lives and hop on with me and talk to y'all. So greatly appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. And now we're going to wrap this up because Jason looks like he's just wasting away and he's famished. So we need to let him go so he can go get some food. Because he literally walks in the door and hops on the. So
That's another aspect we never talk about is how much money Jason loses every Tuesday night. He could probably work over 4 hours if he
Yeah, but I
wanted
don't
to.
want to.
Say again, Jason?
I said, yeah, but I don't want to.
see,
Not
there
on
you go.
Tuesday anyway. Not on Tuesday anyway. Thank you,
So we're
Jason.
helping Jason's mental stability.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That's
All right,
going to
gang.
takes a lot of help. Gotcha. Anyway. Go ahead, Mikey. We need to get off.
All right. Keep that brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Fire up those toaster ovens and try some powder coating.
If you don't know how to cast good bullets.
Bye.
Ooh!
The zingers are flowing tonight.
Go ahead, Phil.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
Take someone shooting.